What tool do you absolutely need to play tabletop RPGs, yet many people who play never use it? I'm going to talk about that and answer that question today in this video, as well as talk about some of the other basic tools that you need to play tabletop RPGs. Now, this is one video and probably just a few videos of how to play tabletop RPGs. It's kind of a bare bones basic. So if you don't know anything about tabletop RPGs and you want to know what this is about, well, this series is going to be for you. But we're really going to highlight at the end the #1 tool that, dare I say, a majority don't even use. And at the end, as always, we're going to have the question of the vid, because I am quite sure that you guys are going to want to talk about this one, get some engagement going in the comments, even if you're going back and forth or whatever. So all that said, y'all, let's get into this right now and roll that transition. Now, I told you this was very basic, and this is a no-brainer, right? You need a tabletop RPG in order to play a tabletop RPG. Duh. But there's so many different types of tabletop RPGs out there. Where do you start? Well, I've done a video where I lay out what I believe are the best tabletop RPGs for beginners, and I'm going to leave a link for that down in the description. Now, one of those I'm going to highlight here real quick is the Cipher system. And this is because it is all-purpose and agnostic. You can play any genre that you want, and then you're off to the races. And that's why it's so good for beginners. Now, I'm not gonna go into detail. You can go ahead and watch that video for that. Now, one thing that's good about having the game, if you're not the GM, because that's kind of a given that the GM is gonna have the game. But as a player, it's good for you to have a game also. It'll make it easier and it'll make the session flow more smoothly if there's more people around the table who actually know the game and how it goes. So if the GM's looking up something, maybe one of the players already know where it is and can get there faster. Or maybe the GM is helping someone and somebody else needs help, and one of the players who has the game can help them. And so you have this synergy around the table where everybody's helping one another, people have more knowledge, and again, it just makes things flow better. Dice are staples. You need dice to play a tabletop RPG. Now, you might need regular 6-sided, but normally you'll need some kind of specialty dice. Now, I have a special set. These are an LED set. And let me open them up for you so you can look at them. But before I do that, I have to. Now let me open it up. And look at that. Lit up like a Christmas tree. So these are a set of dice. You got your 12, your 4, your 20, your 6, 2 10s, which you can use as percentile dice. And right over here, you have an 8-sider. So those are what is called a base set of tabletop RPG dice. Now, you don't need anything fancy like this. You can get normal dice, and that, just like the plastic dice. And I'll show you mine now. I bought this container here at Walmart, and actually it's not even for dice. This thing is for like beads and jewelry and sequins. That's what it says right here. You see that? And hey, whatever works, bro. You know what I mean? Fits my dice nicely. I got plenty sets of dice, and let me show you what's what here, okay? So right here are my percentile dice. So these are percentile dice. Here are my 20-siders. Here are my 12-siders. Right here, you got my 8s. This whole row right here, 6-sided die. And then you got my 4s right here, and then some 10-siders over here. So there you go. Sets of dice. Now, I have multiple sets of dice. You don't need that many sets of dice, but it would be good if you went ahead and bought a few sets. And they're cheap, y'all. These things are cheap. Just go ahead and buy a couple of sets and you'll be good to go. Now, sometimes you have proprietary dice that come for a game, that they create for a game. Like, check out these Vastin dice right here. And they're 6-siders, right? But you can tell there is a special symbol here right there in the corner. And that is a success, and which is pretty much all that you need. The rest of it is just fluff, to be quite honest. And they should have came out with more than just 6, because your abilities can go up to like 7 or 8 over time. But it is what it is. So you're still going to need some 6-sided dice there. But just plan on, if you know nothing about tabletop RPGs, dice are a staple, and you're going to need to invest in them, even though you can borrow from some people, but that's annoying. Go get your own. This is another one of those things that some people will be like, you don't really need that. I think you do. I think that this is a staple. I think this should be a staple. I think dice trays are a staple. So you're not rolling dice. And number one, they're not hitting miniatures on the map or knocking things down that you have on the table. That's number one. Number two, they don't fall off the corner of the table and now you're looking for them, and they might go down some vent or something, and now you've lost a die, or you can't find it because it blends in perfectly with the carpet that you guys are on, or whatever. Let's kill all that noise, get some dice trays. And this one here is a Shivia dice tray, and all of them look pretty much the same. I've got 4 of these. Anytime we play live, I just give everybody one, and they can just roll their dice in there. And that way it keeps everything neat, and you just be good to go and won't have to worry about all that little itty bitty nonsense. So I suggest getting this. Come on, there's like 15 bucks for 4 or something like that. It's crazy cheap. Everybody pitch in and buy some. You'll thank me later. This is one of those tools that everybody needs to use and everybody doesn't. You only find like 1 or 2 that actually really use them. And the reason for this is because, well, really, they're not utilizing the number one tool, which we'll get to in a few here. But using a journal is going to help your sessions run more smoothly. Now, why is that? Well, because if you write down things and notes during the session, things that you think, okay, this might be important. Oh, the name of this NPC over here. So you don't have to ask the GM for the 10th time the name of that NPC that you guys have run into for the 5th time. Okay, come on. What's going on here? Just write it down. Write down the name of Belinda Nelson. She's the shopkeeper on 103rd and 10th or whatever. Write it down. Write down those notes. The GM will be more than happy that you write them down. So the next time that you come there, you can just flow in and flow smoothly into the role play, the high level role play. That's what I'm talking about. And then you can use your journal to expand maybe on your character, because really what your journal is for personal world building for your character. That's what it is. That's what it is. And that's probably the reason why a lot of people don't use it, because, well, it takes a little bit of work, and it takes the number one tool that most of them don't utilize. There you go. Now, for a journal, you can keep your journal in a couple of different things. You can keep it in what I keep it, like for my solo adventures, I keep it in a notebook. And I write in cursive. Isn't that something? Yes. And if you want to see it, let me go ahead. I didn't even show you guys, but I write in cursive, I write in print, I do both. You see that? And I've got a lot of notes here for my solo campaigns. So you can keep it in a plain old notebook. I got a friend of mine, he likes using moleskin notebooks like this. Now this isn't quite one, but it looks similar to this. He says he has stacks of them that he uses. Whatever floats your boat, man. Or you can use a tablet like this. This is my Samsung tablet. And you can use this, and you can use whatever app that you want to use, whether it be Evernote or OneNote or just Notes or whatever other app that you like to use to keep your notes in. You can use that, or you can use it, of course, on your phone. Use whatever works, but keep a journal and write in it copiously. Build the world for your character and help immerse yourself more in the world that you are running through for hours on end. And you're going to find that the more that you do that, the deeper that you can get into your campaign. Folks, that is the point. So as the name suggests, yes, this is specifically for the GM. And it is a reference screen. So all of the tables and things that you need are right there in front of your eyes. You don't have to flip through the book to find all of that stuff. It's just right there. And these are the things that you're going to need the most.
Now, you can go out, you can buy yourself a proprietary GM screen like this one right here. This one is for Twilight 2000, and this is a trifold GM screen, so it's just 3 panels that fold out, and it has all information like I said. I personally, though, like the quad fold-out panels for an agnostic GM screen like the Stratagem one that I've shown here on the channel before. All you really need to do to use those is, now you're gonna have to do a little bit of work, right? Make sure that you have all of the sheets of paper that has all of your tables and stuff, but just go to the copy shop, make color copies of them, 4 of them for all the tables and stuff that you're gonna need, and just slide them in there. So if, for example, I wanted to do a Cypher System session for 1 sitting, and then maybe the next week I'm gonna slide into some Sentinel Comics RPG session, all I need to do is make 4 for each game, all tables and all the rest of that stuff, and just switch them out. That's it. I'm using the same GN screen, just different information behind the screen. Absolutely something that you need, because I have seen people who try to run a game without a GM screen. And what's a way to say this? It was a hot mess. A hot mess. You had players kind of looking to see what the GM was doing, and the GM, not a good GM for doing that, not facilitating the game like they should. It was a pretty horrible session, but I'm going to make a separate video on that session. This was quite a while ago. This was like last year or something, but I'll make a video on that and let you guys in on that. But if you are a GM, go and grab yourself a GM screen. Grab an agnostic one like the Stratagem one, like I'm telling you, you will thank me later. It's an absolute must. Now, some of you may be looking at this and saying that, well, you know, I don't really need a GM screen. I don't use a GM screen, you know, whatever. Of course, I'm saying this kind of from an RPG Elite perspective because, well, this is RPG Elite, but this last one, oh, this is across the board. And if you do not have this, put it this way, this will disqualify you from any RPG Elite playing with you. And this last absolutely mandatory tool that you need to play a tabletop RPG is an imagination. An imagination. And yet, I have seen this countless times where people are not trying to immerse themselves in the story. They're just trying to immerse themselves in the mechanics. And what ends up happening is that there's no immersion. The story is hardly there. And they think it is, but it really isn't. It's just stuff that they're doing. It's not actually a story that's actually developing because they're not utilizing imagination. Now, this is different from creativity. They are closely tied together. They are not the same. As a matter of fact, creativity needs to impose itself on the foundation of imagination. Imagination comes first. And the problem with so many people who play tabletop RPGs is there is no imagination. There's no immersion. There's no losing themselves in the story. And that, folks, well, you end up being RPG Elite quality number 5. That's what ends up happening. And it's not like we're trying to be mean or anything, but once we see that, we're kind of like, yeah, I'm slick, man. Nah, I don't want to play. Go ahead, do your thing. Because people who don't utilize their imagination, no medium level or high level role playing, even an attempt, because remember, RPG Elite quality number 4, right? We're not saying that you have to do it great. We just have to saying that work your right side of the brain, that imaginative side, so that you can work the creative side. You see, but everybody's here and here and here, and there's a reason for that. I'm not going to get into it in this video, but imagination is the number 1 tool that you need to play a tabletop RPG. And if you're just reticent and just don't want to do it because, well, everybody else is not doing it and I don't want to, I feel uncomfortable doing it. All right, well, if that's how you want to do it, you can do it like that. Never expect an RPG Elite to play with you. Ever. Because I know personally as an RPG Elite, I never would. And you could be a great person. You can be somebody I can hang out with on at any other time, play board games with, go to movies with, chill out with. Yeah, I just wouldn't play a tabletop RPG with you. I'm about to embark on 4 or 5 hours of some deep stuff, and you are not even going to use your imagination? You are going to slow down this session, you're going to break immersion, and you are going to be the one thing in the game that will be consistently boring. And I just can't hang. So I'll let people do what they want to do in that regard, and I'll play with people who are at least attempting to work that imagination, and others who are encouraging them to work their imagination. Oh, that's a whole video by itself. But that, bar none, is the #1 tool that you need to play tabletop RPGs. Now, an honorable mention here on the tools is something like a backpack or attaché, something to carry all that stuff. Like if you are playing live, and even if you have your game in a digital version, then you're going to need something to carry your tablet or your laptop in. God forbid if you're doing all that stuff on a phone. Good grief. Or moleskin, and your dice tray, and your GM screen, and the game. You're going to need something to carry all that stuff in. So as an honorable mention, I would suggest a backpack. Now, this is a backpack that I use when I'm going and I running a game live someplace that's not in my home. It's usually in my home. But if I have to go someplace, I just use this backpack. It has everything. I put the game in there, put my dice right over here. Everything that I need, little compartments and stuff, this is what I use. Now, if I am using a laptop or something like that, in addition to that, then I might have like a little attaché like this that I carry with me. And you may need that if you're playing a live session. Now, if you're playing a virtual session, obviously you don't need none of that stuff. But I'm just talking about live sessions when you're going to somebody else's house and you want to carry all of this stuff that you need, dice and all the rest of that stuff. You need some kind of carrying case. It's an honorable mention. Can you get away with not having it? Yes. But it would be kind of inconvenient if you're carrying a whole bunch of stuff. But if you're only carrying a couple things, you can get away with not having it, which is why I say it's an honorable mention. Hey, if you got any value out of this video today, could you do a brother a solid? Please, little James Brown there. And could you go ahead and crush the like button? Also, if you want to stick around here, folks, I come out with videos every Tuesday and Friday. I mean, God willing, as long as I'm able to do so. So you guys can go ahead and hit that subscribe button and that notification bell. Well, it's that time, folks. It is time for us to get to the question of the vid. I talked about the #1 tool being your imagination, and it is. And it doesn't matter if you're a GM or a player, that is the #1 tool that you need. But I want to know something, and I want you to do some self-evaluation here. What are the things that get in the way of you utilizing that #1 tool during a tabletop RPG session? Because there are a lot of people who have a hard time with this. And sometimes I think they're making it a little bit harder than what it needs to be. They need to relax, and that might be a problem. But there might be some other underlying issues here. And I really want to know what gets in the way of you using the #1 tool, imagination, in your tabletop RPG sessions. Go ahead, let me know down in the comments below. It's time to get that engagement going that I was talking about at the beginning of the video. And that is going to do it, folks. That means I have to slide on out of here and, oh, check it out. Got to do my Snagglepuss.
So exit, station F.
Hey, if you got a game this week, folks, happy gaming. I pray it is an RPG Elite session that is more immersive, enjoyable, and meaningful. So until next time, God willing, once again, it's me, y'all, all for Shazy. It's your boy servant saying peace, 5,000 Leets. That's right. I am out.